All right, boys and girls, parents, teachers, leaders, community activists, everyone, good morning. We are in day 9 of Creative Emotional Intelligence. It's been an exciting journey. Let's get to it. So, if you were with us yesterday, day number 8, we started talking a little bit about the difference between feelings and emotions, how different people think they're different things. Some people might say they're the same thing. Some people say feelings are my reactions to my emotions. Some people say my emotions are my reactions to my feelings. And at the end of the day, when we're looking at a simple way of understanding it, we know through creative emotional intelligence, feelings are on the inside and emotions are on the outside. Now, why is that helpful to us? It's because on the inside we get to discern how we feel, and discern means to break down. Discern means to really help our brain really understand itself. Do you guys remember about the neocortex and how it can create tools and is looking for ideas to calm down the insecure reptilian brain, which doesn't know how it feels. It only experiences threat, right? So if you haven't seen that video, go back to day number 3 and day number 4, maybe from 5 all the way to 1 and begin there. So on the inside, we're here to discern, but emotions are learnable. Again, pointing back at the prefrontal cortex and the neocortex, we can learn new emotions, right? And so essentially, if you guys are following me so far, then let's just erase this. Because we have to start moving a little quicker. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to get people to understand is that feelings are like little seeds of different kinds, right? So this is a banana seed, or bananas maybe, I guess they do have seeds, I don't know. Maybe some banana experts can let me know. Orange seeds, and we have some blueberry seeds and so forth, right? And we know all of these hundreds of different fruits and hundreds of different vegetables. But on the inside, we're a reflection of this land. So on the inside, we're going through all of these experiences, and we know that the reptilian brain doesn't know which one's which. That's why all of us, what one person feels is sad, another person feels is mad. One is sad, down, the other one is angry, right? And so completely different, but they could be having the same experience, but different feelings because they have a different context in their brain that's been developed over time, like we've discussed. So again, it's hard to do everything, constant wrap up in every single class. So please, guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back and begin there, because now we're in day 9. And so what this does on the inside for us is that if we only know sad, and we only know angry, and we only know fear, right? Because we don't know what's going on. And let's just say, let's add another one. Let's add chill, and let's add depressed, and let's add I don't know. When I talk to kids, usually this is kind of the stuff that they share with me, and we've done this work with about 100 to 150 different kids. And this is what they tell us initially they experience. But once they're done with our workshop, what they discover on the inside is that there are more layers, because they're feeling them, and no one can tell you what you're not feeling. And the problem is right now with social distancing, we can't be together. We can't feel each other. We can't be with each other. We're human beings. So humans do the thinking, but beings do the feeling. But with social distancing, it doesn't feel the same to be on the phone with somebody as it is to embrace them. It doesn't feel the same way as going to work and engaging with people and shaking hands and hugging some of the people that you love, whether it's friends or colleagues or neighbors, or even your teachers or at school. No, it's even distant up close. That doesn't feel good, guys. So literally this is a challenge for us to have to understand that we have to develop better rapport with ourselves. And what that looks like is giving ourselves the tools that we need in order to be able to do that, right? And so we don't have 200 feelings memorized in our brain. We don't. And what we do know According to Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, who wrote How Emotions Are Made, she's the leading voice. If you don't know who she is, look her up, Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett. She is the author of How Emotions Are Made, and she's a neuroscientist and psychologist, and she has revolutionized. She was published in the Time magazine Mental Health edition of 2019, which is just a few months ago, and literally she's revolutionized the fact, and she tells us in her study, if she studied something like thousands and tens of thousands of brains, in the production of how do people make emotions, and how do they even come out, and can we even predict? And the answer is no. Everyone has a different total experience, and you can't ever see it from the face. And that's what tells us that feelings are truly on the inside, and that emotions, which stands for energy in motion, we now have to become physicists of our feelings, right? We have to literally start thinking about them because our brain is experiencing them. But if the reptilian brain doesn't know what it's going through, and all we know is just fear, and fear because I got bad grades in school, or because my teacher, I'm afraid of what's going to happen. Angry because I'm not doing well, or because my parents are yelling at me, or angry because of all this change that's happening, because I don't want to change. Nobody wants to change. Whenever you've had plans in the past and your boyfriend calls you and says, babe, listen, I don't want to do that. Ladies, how do you feel? You've created these plans, or gentlemen too. We're a little bit, I guess, all different. But in my experience is, if I've had a girlfriend and she's made plans and I decide that maybe something else has come up, she doesn't feel very good. We don't like to change, because change means that our emotions have to predict new outcomes. But how can it predict new outcomes when we only have about 5 to 10 words in our mind? Think about it. Name 10 feelings right now. You probably have 2 or 3. Might be working on the 6th one. After like 7 or 8, it starts getting challenging. If you can get up to 15 or 20, you're doing pretty well. But the reality is that we have 200 different feelings on the inside. That all 200, we feel them. But the reptilian brain doesn't know what's going on. So if it doesn't know what's going on, but it experiences them, and it's counting on you to learn, I'm not saying memorize them. I am saying walk around with this. Carry it with you everywhere you go, so that whenever you're feeling something that you cannot explain, you literally sit down and you take that moment of intensity, and now you literally transfer your emotion, your energy. You are energy, right, on the inside, and we have to transfer the motion, right? So that's energy in motion. That's what emotion is. And that's why, truly, in creative emotional intelligence, it's really E-motional with a 2 up top. Because it is energy times the speed of light over, it creates mass. We have to become physicists, because what we do know from the greatest minds like Albert Einstein, he says that the greatest scientists are also artists. And that's because, all great science comes from a deep intuitive notion. Something that you know, but you don't quite know why you know it. Has that ever happened to you, where you knew something, but you didn't know why you knew it, but you knew you had it? And that's why we have to start feeling more deeply, so that the problems that we're seeing in the world, we could truly allow our intuition to create new ideas and new outcomes. But if we are left at the level of just fear, angry, sad, and depressed, and we're not breaking it down, for instance, like if we're going to break down fear, maybe, in fear you have things such as, in fear you have rejected. So maybe you don't feel rejected, and that feels good to know that, right? There it is. So this guy needs this information. He needs to know that. And he's insecure. Maybe you are feeling insecure and you don't even know it. And why don't you know it? Because you don't have the words. We haven't been taught the words. We haven't been taught the importance of being able to do this, right? And so maybe you are feeling insecure. So then because all your feelings are laid out in front of you, now you can scratch it off. The energy inside of you needs to release. It needs to kind of know that it's handled a certain distinctual condition. You follow me so far? On the inside. And again, the inside of you doesn't know. You can only feel, and therefore it's real to you. And so we're not discussing psychology or psychiatry or CBT or DBT or rational motive behavior therapy or anything other. This is strictly at the level of creative emotional intelligence, because we're having to express what we feel is depressed. Literally, this is not cognitive. We're not doing thoughts. Emotional intelligence is at the level of thoughts. It's at the level of taking chaos to control. And control my chaos. And know how to act and be polite and say thank you and please and be aware and say please pardon me and allow me and be considerate and say thank you. Literally, emotional intelligence is just being masterful with your manners and being considerate with other people and yourself. It starts with you. We know Jesus said it. You have to first take the stick out of your own eye before you tell the other guy he's got a splinter in his eye. Literally, we're being held accountable now. And most of us are bored. Most of us are bored to death, literally. We're having such a hard time, this emotional overwhelm, because literally the words that our brain has are maybe 4 or 5, but literally we have to sit down and say, oh brain, yeah, you are feeling insecure. You almost have to be the parent to your inner child that you never had. Imagine if you had a parent when you were a child that sat down with you. Oh, I thought the alarm was ringing. That sat down with you and said, okay, so you're feeling rejected, son? What about terrified? Right? And in the back, we have all the definitions. Terrified, you know what? Yeah, I am terrified because I don't know the outcome. But that makes your reptilian and mammalian brain feel good because it's trying to understand. And so what we do know about emotional overwhelm is basically an abundance of unrecognizable feelings. That is equal to stress. So we know that emotional overwhelm is equal to stress. Because in both situations, you cannot accurately predict how you're feeling. And you can't predict it because the words are so limited in your brain housing group. So you feel all this stuff and you're stuck up here because this doesn't know what this is going through. And you're all one body. We have to communicate. We have to develop better rapport with ourselves because at the end of the day, the reptilian brain only knows if it's death or not death. It only experiences threat or no threat. It only responds to stimulus. That's why the most important, guys, if there's one thing I take away from this, the most important feeling all parents and all teachers and all leaders and everybody, if you have a community of people, literally study the feeling of surprise. Because in surprise, you have both confused and you also have amazed. And most of us, we're going the confusion route. So we scratch that off and that makes us feel good in the moment. This is if we're doing it, right? If you have my book in your hand and now you're looking at your whole wheel and the center, if I can show you this, I'll show you, let me show you a day. Let me show you one of my bad days. I don't want to show you my good days, I'll show you my bad days. So I don't know if you can see that, but when I sat down to do music, I never knew how I feel. So when I created this book, I literally took out 6 core feelings. Do you guys see that? So number 1, it just says number 1. Number 2 says number 2. Number 3 says number 3. Number 4 says number 4. Number 5 and number 6. But the representation of those extremities are present. And that allows me to dive into an intuitive place where I know that if I'm feeling withdrawn, I'm going to scratch off withdrawn. But it's number 1. What does number 1 even mean? I don't know, I hope you guys can see that. But it doesn't matter because now I'm dealing with, I don't get to be given the sad, angry, surprised, disgust, fear, and disgusted, right? Those are the 6 core feelings. I don't have to be given those because I'm not trying to make it all good either. When the brain deals with itself effectively, it will naturally feel good. When you naturally eliminate the weeds from your garden, your trees will grow. We know that. Science, nature looks at it. And that's how Albert Einstein does it. That's how I'm doing it. I look at the core basics and I say, you know what? Let's just deal with the negatives because I know if I can help my brain understand the negatives it's going through, just by understanding, it'll feel at ease. If you can talk to anybody that's ever been through my workshops, when we start doing this in the first 10 minutes, they're in a different place. And then we go from there because this is not even the beginning. This is just a brief explanation. So we have these 200 different feelings because we're feeling them. You might be disapproval, so you need to scratch that off. Literally, there's a cosmic connection between your hand and a tool. And when you scratch it off, light or hard or whatever, you're literally transferring the energy. That is emotion. That is energy in motion. So we, at Creative Emotional Intelligence, are focused on the emotional part of the feeling. Absolutely, because we need to discern. That's called emotional differentiation. Write that down. And we need to practice that because as our brain starts learning more words, then it can make better predictions and send better information to our reptilian brain, which is the one that's always causing us to be scared for everything. Because any change that comes, what does change do but represent something that's unpredictable? And when something is unpredictable, what does it do? You can't identify it, so you have to identify it. And because the unknown is now present, we are going to have a hard time if all the feelings we have are just these. But in the reality, we're feeling, despair, right? We might be feeling despair. But where is despair? Is despair, it's in 2 or 3 or 4? And what are those numbers? So again, this is a process that took me 6 years to create, guys. And we're not going to learn it overnight, but I'm willing to give it everything I got, as I do every single day. I wake up every single day, 7 days a week, just to be present with you guys, just to begin sharing with you guys, little by little, all the things that have allowed me as a United States Marine with 17 screws in my face. I've been diagnosed with chronic depression, general anxiety, and PTSD. And through creation, literally through creative emotional intelligence, I have been able to save my own life. When we know 20 veterans a day, they lose their lives to suicide from the emotional overwhelm, from the stress, from the boredom, from the emotional ambivalence, which is having good and bad feelings at the same time, and that comes from a moment of unpredictable change. So I already know where we're going with this, and I can see it getting worse. I can see more families getting more bored. I can see parents becoming less tolerant. I can see children becoming, paying less attention. Because now their devices, they're just stuck with them now. Before it was something to kind of get away from while I'm on the bus or while I'm in my classroom with my friends and maybe I want a break. Now there is no break. And now we have to find something else to do. Literally, it's a challenge for us to now have to retrain our brain to do specific kind of thinking, and that is thinking on the level of emotional intelligence. Where it's actually the energy in motion, where our energy in motion has to be the representation of new learning for discernment of emotional intelligence. And that's just the beginning of creative emotional intelligence, because we haven't even started talking about the kind of patterns that when you do this over 12 days, right? Let's just say maybe 2 times a week. Whenever you're feeling intense feelings, if you're feeling intense feelings, you sit down with this book and you go through this. And you literally coach your brain and say, okay, brain, I know reptilian brain, that you're feeling, like all this unpredictable, all this change. You don't even know how you're feeling, because that already tells you it's bad. Then we kind of need to give it some peace. That's all it's asking us for. The brain's asking for peace. It doesn't want peace in the world, and it wants peace from within. And that peace from within can only be provided by the education that we provide ourselves at this moment. Because I can't teach you emotional intelligence. I can't teach you creative emotional intelligence. I can give you the tools, and I can show you the techniques, and I can give you the books away for free, and I can build a huge community that's going to celebrate creativity at the end of this thing, and we're going to come out more resilient and better equipped for the future change. Because when it comes, I'm going to know to be creative. I already know that my feelings are on the inside. I know that emotions are on the outside, and now that I've been playing and practicing with my emotions, now I'm actually, okay, so for anger, I do this. Because now I can do things for the positive, for creation, and for disgust. Now, before I used to cry and judge people and do that, but now that my brain has figured that out, it's like, wait a minute, with that disgust, we can maybe, do this. And it starts coming up with creative ideas. Because when the mind is at ease and when the mind is at peace, creativity naturally comes. Look at babies. They don't have a thought in their mind and they're constantly creating. So stop. Stop thinking. We don't have to process any more thoughts. We just have to now become excellent learners of emotional intelligence first. This is the beginning. Emotional intelligence is the first. And emotional intelligence is a practice. There are no masters. I'm not a master. I'm not a teacher. I'm just sharing with you guys what I've been through, because I've had to live alone for the last 7 years of my life, since 2013, sitting with my depression, because I've been creating music for 20 years and 40,000 hours with all of my pain from having screws in my face and having depression and social isolation and all my friends abandoning me because I was toxic. And so I had to learn the hard way, but I always had music. I always had creative emotional intelligence. I was always practicing it. And over 40,000 hours of doing it, God said, you know what? You already made your dreams come true. You've produced for famous people. Go do something for the community. And this started in 2013. And ever since then, I've been sitting in meditation and contemplation and creation and feelings and investigation and learning. And because I'm a music producer, I listen through my heart, and my heart is basically endless because I can have my capacity for feeling is very granular. What that allows me to do is to constantly seek to understand. So when I'm interested in something, I pay absolute attention, and it's almost like I download the information. And for the last 6 years, through meditation and intense reading and all that, I've been able to create the context for creative emotional intelligence, because literally feelings, it's simple. Feelings, if we don't express, we depress. If we don't release, we contract. But if we don't value our feelings, we'll never be okay. Because feelings is kind of the world of where children live, and all of us live. It's just if we're adults now, all we do is think. And the only thing the mind knows how to do with thoughts is, what can I do with them? So this book, I can throw it, or this book, I can kick it, or this book, I could read it. It only knows how to do, but it doesn't know how to just be. And so now we have to learn to be with our feelings in a positive and healthy way, which creativity and creation allows us to do that. And so through creative emotional intelligence, we're getting now to a place where we're starting to recognize the importance of practicing emotional differentiation to build up the ability to not even build up anything, literally just to have a tool for coping. A tool for coping when the emotions come and we're feeling overwhelmed, so that you can see that you might be feeling 30 or 50 feelings. You might be feeling 60 feelings. Look, let's see, maybe I have a day. Look, this is one of my days. Look what I was going through. Let me see if I have another one. I also do it on my good days. Now, I've done my own book. This is like the third of my own book that I've done. And so my emotional differentiation has become more specific. So it's like, okay, on this day I was feeling, powerless, and I was feeling empty, and I was feeling bored, and I was feeling this, and I was feeling that. But then I ended up creating beautiful things out of that, right? And I'll bring my other book. I'm going to bring my old book tomorrow, so for day 10, we can look at it. So I hope you guys got something from it. There's so much to cover, and we can't be together, and most people don't even understand emotional creativity. It's like, what? How? When? What is that? Like, that doesn't... Feelings? Why? What do you do with them? Right? Because that's what the mind does. It wants to do things with stuff. And we have to teach it now to do, but it has to do from within. And you have to build this rapport for yourself, so that over time, through this practice, then you will start learning the process, and through that process, you will find liberation. I promise you, if this thing has helped me and I'm unhelpable, and now I get to be here because the creator, the source, is having me become resourceful for you guys and provide resources, which are all his anyway. And that's why I'm doing this for free. None of this belongs to me. I've just been the one that's had to be, dragged through the mud and see if I stand the test of time. And maybe that's why he had me become a United States Marine prior to this. Because in the Marine Corps training during war, you're going to be pushed, and you either make it or you don't. And I'm a sergeant of Marines. I became a meritorious sergeantly promoted in 3 years because I was a very dedicated, hard-charging, hard-working, motivated, integrity-driven Marine. And so I've been tested. I'm not just some guy off the street. And the guys off the street, I help them all the time. I've done workshops at bus stops. I've done workshops inside buses. I give books away. And anytime I have someone or I meet someone that I feel is having a bad day, I give them the book and I say, come here, let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to do this. Literally, if Christ was alive right now, I think this is what he would be doing. And so, all the glory to Christ. Because without him, I am nothing. And I'm, simply here, just to do the work the best I can to explain to people how we can transform this very difficult, emotional, social distancing that we're all being affected from into something positive, right? Because it's these emotions start accumulating. They start accumulating, right? They start accumulating. And this is just energy. And as it starts accumulating, it's looking for a way out. But look, it's starting to fill up your body. This is your head. And it's inside of you. Now it's like getting closer to your head. But now you're having to go to work, and you're having to solve for your kids, and you're having to do this. But look at the energy. It's there. And now, because energy is an emotion, emotional energy is a feeling on the inside, we understand that if we don't start dissipating this energy, if we don't start giving it form, if we don't start looking to see what kind of energy is happening, because the mind has to understand things, so it needs context, and that's why we have to develop emotional differentiation, so we can spot the seeds and then start literally becoming gardeners of our own life. Because the world on the outside may be chaotic, but on the inside is all that matters. You have to be able to cope with yourself and your feelings. And I don't know what you've been through as a child. I don't know what you've been through as an adult. I don't know how traumatized you are. Maybe you're not traumatized. Maybe none of this is relevant. Good for you. But if you are starting to feel that accumulation of energy, that is emotion, that's feeling, because it's constantly happening, and you're not dissipating, right? Exercise helps for that, so that's great. But at the end of exercise, that's at the body level. We also need to engage the mind in its own type of exercise. And we know that the mind is infinite. It has imagination and it has intuition. We know that it has inspiration. We know that it has creativity. We know that it wants to produce ideas. And we know that nothing raises self-esteem like a sense of self-accomplishment. I know that every time I've done this and I've sat down with my feelings to construct with them and to take my disgust and be like, oh, I hate my life and I hate everybody. But then my book forces me because it's already prepared. So, for instance, I had this terrible day, and then you have to dance. So on this day I had to dance. So on this day, because I don't have enough space here, I wrote it in my journal, and this day was my day for dancing. So it's already programmed, So some days you're going to do that, some days and it's going to challenge you. So you're going to have to sit with your feelings when you're having that emotional intensity moment, differentiate what you're going through to help your reptilian brain and your mammalian brain understand itself, because it wants peace, it wants to feel safe. It doesn't know if it's safe or not. You have to make it feel safe. And you have to do that by giving yourself new tools and techniques that are going to allow you to transform your worst days into your best on a continual basis. Because we don't know how long this is going to last. But I promise you this, I'm as constant as this is going to go. If this is going to go on forever, I'm going to go on forever. Right? I'm willing to meet this challenge head on, because if you're not constantly changing, then you're going to be constantly breaking. And we can't be broken people. We just cannot. We have to survive. This is what we're good at. This is why mankind has been around for 40,000 years, because there's always one person that's been doing something, like a tadpole grew a leg, and grew an arm, and made it to land. And now there's frogs everywhere, right? It always takes one, and it just takes one, and it could be you. You could be the person in your own family, at home, doing creative emotional intelligence, saying, you know what, I think what this guy's saying is true. I don't know none of this stuff. I need to learn this stuff. I need to make it my business now that I'm having my feelings. I'm going to learn from them. And I'm going to change my mind about everything, because if I have to now constantly change, because change is constantly coming, I'm going to meet change where change is. And I'm going to flow with it. But I know that I don't know all the tools, and I know that I don't know all the techniques. But if I have the help, and if I have the materials, and if I have the tools, and if I have the teacher, I know I can do it. And yes, you can, because you have a United States Marine leader that's ready at the helm of this whole operation to make sure that we're going to continue moving forward, that we're going to create opportunities to experience our pain in a positive way, that we're going to organize it, because we all have clean closets, we like things clean, but on the inside, this emotional energy is just building up. And why is it building up? Because the new thing comes from Trump, and then a new number from death, and then a new number from uncertainty. And how long is this going to last? So it's coming from the outside. And then on the inside, you're still having to manage your children, and you're still having to manage your job, and it's too much, ladies and gentlemen. It's too much. We're not built for this. We're built for stability. We're built for comfort. We're built for flow, at least how it's been. But we're really just the most adaptable creature that's ever existed in the life of all life. We are completely adaptable. Right now, if it's time to change, you're going to say, you know what, family, we're going to change. Change direction. I'm leading this opportunity. I'm going to take my kids, and I'm going to take my family. This is what we have to do, because there has to be a leader in each household. One person that has to be the match that sparks the fire in all the others. Because in order to light the fire in others, one must first set fire to himself. And I'm on fire every single day just for you, even if it's just one person watching or it's 1,000 people. I don't care who's watching. Right? Because I'm not attached to results. I'm attached to making sure that if I can express myself and follow and help you guys come on board in this journey for yourselves and explain to you why you need to do this. The social distancing is we're losing connection. That doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel safe. We feel safe when we're together. But when we're apart, now we're alone, and now I'm alone with my feelings and my uncertainty, because now my reptilian brain is experiencing change, and we know that change always produces an unpredictable outcome. And anything that is unpredictable can't be controlled. So at this point, we have to let go of what's happening on the outside, and now we have to assume control and responsibility for ourselves. And that's why, a good thing for Dr. Lisa Barrett, thank you, Dr. Lisa Barrett, everybody, very complicated stuff, but if you were able to read it, I suggest you read it. And she just says that emotions are predictions. But these are predictions we go into the past to get. And so if our past is limited in emotional intelligence, stop. That's where we are. And it's okay that we're there, because at least now we know where we can build from. And through creative emotional intelligence, I promise you guys, I've been doing this already for 6 years, building it in the hope that I don't know what's going to happen, but I knew I had to do this, and so I'm doing it now. I have the whole thing laid out. I promise, when you guys get this, and you guys see the back, there's a whole map. I've laid out a whole entire map. It's called the Map of Self-Creation. And we'll get into it. This is a whole, probably a year course all in itself, but literally it takes you from feelings to fortune. And fortune is the liberation of freedom. The liberation of feelings is having those feelings grow into their own thing. Because if life is feeling producing, then my feelings have production capability coming from God, right? So if I feel angry, but I'm like, oh, let me figure it out. Oh, okay, great, I feel peace. Oh my God, you know what I can do with this anger? Let me use it. And then now you go, and you go do something with it. And it's already been laid out. And so a lot of us, we have a problem because there's too many ideas. We don't know what ideas to do with what feelings. No, I've done it for you guys. I've done it for you guys. So please write me a message. Please send me your email address. I'm trying to compile a cohort that is substantive enough to have a community, so we're all celebrating and encouraging each other and motivating each other, that as one of us starts practicing and two of us start practicing, and we start getting on and we start taking this train in a new direction towards creation, then all of us become a creatively, emotionally intelligent people. And intelligence is our ability to solve problems. So if you're having emotional problems right now, if you're bored, if you're feeling anxiety, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling emotional ambivalence, which is feeling good and bad at the same time, and you're confused about that, if you don't even know what you're feeling, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling angry, I promise you, this is a huge opportunity that you may not want to hear, because we don't like change. So even me saying this is a huge opportunity, like, ew, right? That's disgust, because disgust is in judgment, or judgment is in disgust. So I get it. I've had to do this stuff for myself. I can probably name 50 to maybe 80 different feelings off the top of my head, simply because I wasn't taught either. But music taught me to create this, and this creation taught me creative emotional intelligence, and it's allowed me to literally to heal from drinking and from drugs and from porn. It's allowed me to heal from pleasures that are just no good for any of us. So we all literally have to take accountability for our inner being now. And that's what I think the challenge is. And in our inner being, it's constantly producing feelings, because it has to understand itself through a frequency that will resonate according to its kind. And its kind is not your kind. Meaning its kind, the way it feels and the way that you are, there's a disconnect. And that's why creative emotional intelligence, through the practice of organizing our feelings and seeing our disgust and say, you know what, I do feel disgust, and acknowledging it, right? Nothing is more important than integrity with yourself and being honest and being transparent with your feelings. Not if your feelings are telling you, do something and you go to the opposite. Now you're dividing on yourself, right? A kingdom divided upon itself will not stand, according to Christ. And so when we're looking at, stuff like hurt, if you're feeling hurt, yeah, okay, scratch it off. We're not trying to blame anybody. We're not trying to go find, no, we're just, how do I feel? What am I going through? And let me organize it. And then over time, when we create patterns of organizing our feelings and being able to see the big picture of our lives, now these patterns start telling us what feelings are actually the strongest in us, which you might not know because you haven't studied yourself. So there's no way for you to know right now. And that is the answer to creativity, because we have seen there are multiple studies that have been done on emotional strong feelings and a correlation to creativity. So I know I've said a lot, but I've needed to say it because now it's time to we have to wrap this up. And so I'm hoping to give you guys everything that I have, little by little, just like this, so you can start understanding what you're going through on the inside, and then the changes that are happening on the outside, and it's too much. And if these feelings can only have maybe 5 or 6 buckets, they might need to be organized in a more orderly way, right? We don't just have 3 or 4 fruits. We have about 100 to 200. Who knows how many fruits, but we have a lot of them. And the reason why I say this is because each feeling has a seed. When you feel resentful, it's not the same as disgruntled, and it's not the same as dismay, and it's not the same as disillusion, and it's not the same as perplexed, and it's also not the same. You see, I didn't know these words before I knew this, but I knew these words. I have learned now these words doing this because I've been able to separate them. And what I feel when I'm perplexed inspires me one way, and what I feel when I'm dismayed inspires me another, or separates me, or moves me. And now, and when I'm resentful, it makes me want to do something else. But if I'm just holding all these feelings like a hoarder and stuck, literally we feel emotionally stuck. Some of us don't want to listen. Some of us don't want to pay attention. Some of us don't have time. We think we don't know. That's all an illusion. This is the answer. Now we're having to become supremely emotionally responsible. And that is part of emotional intelligence. Responsibility and accountability. First with yourself. You have to hold yourself responsible to practicing emotional intelligence when you know those moments come, and then accountable to make sure that you react properly when those challenges come. And then we have to, and when each of us can do that for ourselves, then on the outside, everybody doing it for themselves, we will create a beautiful people, because from emotional intelligence, we'll graduate onto creative emotional intelligence. And that's going to give us an opportunity to transform all this pain in a positive way. So we're constantly creating and becoming inspired from the things that we're able to do on this process. You may not understand right now, it's not logical that you would, but if you trust me, and if you know that I'm giving everything that I have for you so you can get on this journey because you're alive and to do it, I promise you, I won't fail you. And I'll take you there. And I'll walk with you every step of the way. And I'll celebrate everything that you do to make you feel motivated and get you encouraged, just like I would for all my Marines. I used to lead 300 Marines. So if there's 3 people that want to come on board with creative emotional intelligence, let's go. I'm ready to lead this charge. I'm ready to transform pain in a positive way. I'm ready to help you take your depression and transform it into expression. I'm here to hold you guys in the most embracing and loving and kind way, and just be patient with you guys, so that little by little we're all learning how to express our pain in a positive way and transform our worst days, which are always to feelings, into our best days. And that's how we transform feelings to fortune. That's how we transform. It's the liberation of feelings. It's feeling like, wow, it's feeling rest. And I promise you guys it's there. Creative emotional intelligence. I'm here for you guys. Thank you so much for day number 9. This is a very important day because now tomorrow we're going to begin to shift a little bit more. Please send your emails. I'll start getting all this stuff. We'll start getting a cohort together. We'll get accountability, get a good group going. And from there, let it be the glory of God. Let it be whatever He moves us to do, because at the end of the day, it is His will. And I'm only here from Him who sent me. And so I truly fundamentally believe that. And I'm here for you. I love you. And I hope that you are loving yourself. And you know that there's a way, and so you don't have to feel lost if you're feeling lost anymore. There's a new resource. There's a new alternative. There's a new way. There's a way that's going to allow you to create with your feelings in a positive way. And if you stay with us every day at 9:30 in the morning, I promise you I'm not going to let you down. I will stay with you every step of the way. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day.